What's going on, guys and girls? How are you doing today? It's Singer Roleplay once again, and today I want to present you the up-to-date Frostblades Gladiator build. This is one of the most iconic setups in history of Path of Exile since the Frostblades has appeared in the game, and the skill itself hasn't really changed since 2.6, and I believe this is where I pretty much stopped playing this setup as well, when the Threshold Jewels appeared and the skill became very popular. And this character that you see right now is literally the same character that I used to play in the Legacy League, and this is one of my most kind of powerful characters where I cleared most of the game and made it quite far, except maybe killing Shaper because I was really in a complete noob, still bad in Legacy. But I made it very far and the clear speed was amazing. The single target was also pretty damn good, and I wanted to reinvent the build in 2018 and make it up to date and make a full build guide for you guys so they can kind of get into Frostblading and the Gladiator Ascendancy as well. So let's get it on. Speaking about Frostblade skill itself, I would say it's pretty unique because it has the melee part and it has the projectile part of the skill. When you actually hit this enemy, which is pretty close, you hit him with a melee damage and melee damage multipliers, but when you hit this enemy, he kind of shoots projectiles behind him, and it basically does projectile damage to the nearby enemies. That's why it has two kind of multipliers, both with melee and projectile damage, and this is the reason why this skill is so widely popular. It's exceptionally in the past especially. So it has the melee and projectile part of the skill, and basically it can do single target as well as pretty enormous amount of clearing AoE power on it. So it does everything pretty nicely. That's why it was so popular. No matter what others will tell you, single target and Frostblade is still very respectable, and you don't really need Molten Strike or Blade Flurry to kill most endgame bosses. The only problem I believe will be Uber Elder or Uber Atziri, but Shaper is not really a problem, and map bosses are not a problem at all. In patch 3.1, a new skill gem was introduced, which was called the Ancestral Call, and this basically allowed Frostblade to shine once again because it literally kind of tripled the clear speed for the Frostblade. It was pretty good before, but with Ancestral support you can literally see screens shattering and basically disappearing into nothingness. That's how good Ancestral support is, Ancestral Call it is. So basically the pro of the build is that the clear speed is absolutely amazing. It has really nice clear speed, and another pro of the build is definitely the mobility, because we have over 10 attacks per second even without Blood Rage, and basically no move speed on boots. We're using Kaom's Root, so no move speed needed. And even with all that, the mobility and clear speeds is absolutely great. Another pro of the build is, I think, that how easy this skill is to handle. You don't really need any, crazy uniques or very specific gear. You just basically run rare swords. You can run one, alchemy, Skyeva swords up till the very end game and have no absolutely problem leveling up whatsoever and deep into the maps. You don't really need any crazy expensive gear, and maybe the most expensive thing that you will ever need to buy is the Belly of the Beast, which is by current state is not really that crazy. Aside from that, it's one of the few skills that can actually carry you from very start of the game to the very end game without any dramatic problems, and I think this is the true strength of Frostblades, because how good it scales into the endgame from the very beginning. I believe the only two cons of the build are, at first, it's just not a Blade Flurry or Molten Strike. The single target is still, not the absolute blast. It's fine, you can kill all map bosses, you can kill all endgame, but it's just not as good as these true single target skills, Another con of the build, I would say that it's a pretty damn squishy build since we're running the Abyssus, and not running Abyssus is just cutting your balls off because, you know, it does so much damage, and this is a crit accuracy bait build, so Abyssus is a no-brainer and it does tremendous amount of damage. So this is a pretty sketchy build for hardcore, I would say, but still, you know, it can be done on hardcore if you drop Abyssus and possibly stack more kind of life and shit on yourself. But not being a Juggernaut and running Abyssus, I guess it's a little sketchy, but still, you know, it's not glass cannon at all. You can basically tank even bosses with Abyssus because it's right 70 plus physical damage reduction even without endurance charges. So this is pretty some nice amount of toughness in it, and I haven't really seen any dramatic problems surviving whatever content is there in the game. Now let's take a look at power building, guys. I will let you know what you should need to do with the skill tree, how you progress, and what kind of gear and skills you need for this build to make it work. Now, first of all, why Gladiator? Gladiator is the ascendancy class which is designed for dual wielding and for blocking, and these two things combined make you very, very strong, basically carrying two swords, because dual wielding gives you block chance, and Gladiator is the class that can stack block chance like nothing else, especially with the shields. But with the shields you get much less damage, and with two swords you get much more damage. That's why we will be dual wielding and stacking as much damage as possible. There is also Champion and the Slayer, but Slayer is like the king of leech, and Champion is actually not bad, but this adrenaline is pretty much damn annoying, I would say. So I just decided to stick with a very old and reliable Gladiator build, guys. So first of all, we start this, gain physical attack damage, stacking life here. And the first thing you should need to take is the Art of the Gladiator as well as the Master of the Arena. Then transition here and basically grab this fat life with Golem's Blood and life here. Do not take this jewel yet. Now we need to go as fast as possible to the Vitality Void and take this life and mana leech. This will instantly solve your mana and life leeching problems here. Do not take Wisdom of the Glade here. And next thing, we will be just slowly transitioning to the right side of the tree and getting Primeval Force as well as Brutal Blade and Fatal Blade. This is the sword nodes that we need to take. As soon as you get this, you can start stacking crit chance and physical damage. For crit chance you need Twin Terrors, this is pretty damn mandatory, as well as will start converting into full cold damage. That's why we would need Winter Spirit and basically increase our damage with Fangs of Frost, but Winter Spirit comes first. These two nodes will convert the rest 40% of physical damage to the cold damage, and we will have absolutely no physical damage left in the build. We will be fully 100% cold damage. That's why we can run physical reflect maps with fucking ease. So basically, right side of the tree comes first, and then around the end game, when we start reaching maps, we can start gathering this fat life wheel here, as well as attack speed with Berserking, and that basically the jewels. By the time you get your first Fragile Jewel, put the Fight for Survival jewels here, and as well as here, these two jewels, you need this for the Frost Blades. It increases cold damage and allows Frost Blades to penetrate 15% cold resistance, which is absolutely mandatory, as well as increasing projectile speed of Frost Blades projectiles. The very last 90 plus nodes that I personally took as this Wisdom of the Glade, because you'll always be lacking intelligence. We are also running Val Pact in this build, but the leech is not as crazy as with the Slayer. So basically this is all the leech nodes we get, because we deal no physical damage, as I said, so we need attack damage leeches life, not physical attack damage, because we have absolutely no physical attack damage. And first thing that I want to say and mention why we're going full cold conversion. Full cold conversion gives the most damage. And if you stick to the physical version of the Gladiator and the Frostblades, basically you can go the Bleed route here in the Ascendancy. And Bleed route allows you to explode the enemies. For example, like here, bleeding enemies you can explode, dealing 10% of their maximum life as physical damage. And the only thing that can bleed is physical damage. With cold you cannot inflict bleeds. So basically that can a little help with the clear speed, but to be honest, this is not necessary at all, because this will kind of not really help, because you will be shattering and critting all the time, exploding enemies left and right. So bleed explosions I think are a bit in the past, even though there are specs which can still play with bleeding, but I decided to do full cold conversion build, and I absolutely do not regret this at all, guys. So this is it. For the bandits, we are taking Alira because she gave us mana regen, crit multiply and resist, which is very important. As for Ascendancy, the first thing that I would personally take is the Outmatch, which will give you endurance charges on kill with an offhand and frenzy with the main hand. For the Cruel Lap, I will personally take a one-handed speed and block chance and Pain Forge. So basically Pain Forge is a Cruel Lap, yeah, Pain Forge. And the Mercy Lap, I think that I would actually take Versatile Combatant, because this will apply 100% of your block chance to spells. By this time you will have around 30% block chance, which will help you dramatically when you start mapping. And with the very end game, I would personally go with Violent Retaliation. This is my personal choice because it's just a straightforward boost of damage and more block chance on top, which will give you 4% block, 4 more percent block, which is pretty massive. I think this is very good, but it's personal choice, up to you, whatever you think. You can also drop Versatile Combatant for the Mercy Lap and go for the Mercy Lap to the Violent Retaliation. It's not really big of a deal, whatever you want. If you feel like spell damage does not really hurt you, then don't go Violent Retaliation, guys. Here is basically the damage numbers, and I will go briefly over the gear as well. So basically the weapons are 2 swords, and this is an accuracy based, crit based build, guys. So we need accuracy to actually hit the enemies. And as you can see, the hit chance is pretty damn high, is 82%, because we have the accuracy sword. So one sword should be with accuracy, and another one should be the foil with just a giant amount of crit multiplier. That's how the build works in general. The helm is basically the Abyssus for the endgame with the Frostblades enchant, but the real problem with Abyssus is how much of increased physical damage you take. And since we are not Jaggernauts, we don't really have this silly amount of physical damage mitigation. That's why it's pretty damn problematical, and you can get hit pretty damn strong and you can die actually, but it's not big of a deal. And when you run with this armor flask and whatever armor you stack on you, you can still pretty much have around 72% physical damage reduction, so that's a lot. We also run Arctic armor, so this gives another protection. But before you get Abyssus with Frostblades enchant, you can also run absolutely any helm with whatever life and resist you have. The body armor is bit of the beast, nothing specifical here, just classic armor for life. The gloves are spike gloves with life resist and armor, nothing crazy, attack speed of course is there. The boots are calm roots, no brainer, just as much life as possible, and this enchant is pretty strong, increase attack speed and cast speed if you killed recently, this is good. If you get any other enchant, it's not big of a problem at all. Amulet is basically just fist damage to attacks, global crit multiply and life. If you have cold attacks here, it's also very strong. The rings are basically the steel ring and some kind of resist ring, or just another steel ring. For steel ring you're looking for cold damage to attacks, max life resist, physical damage to attacks, as well as elemental damage with attacks skilled. With absolutely beastly ring will be just elemental damage with attacks on the steel ring. The belt is Stygian wise with increased elemental damage with attack skills, life and resist. Abyssal jewels are basically anything. You can have life, cold or physical damage to sword attacks, attack speed with swords, physical damage with swords, and any kind of useful third role like a chance to gain Unholy Might, or for example chance to gain Onslaught. The flask will be described in the flask section, but you can see them here. It's a series Promise, Taste of Hate, Lion's Roar, Diamond Flask for crit chance, and Gel Life Flask. The jewels are basically just crit multiply, and life, nothing crazy. And the other two jewels are fight for survivals. That's about it. For early leveling, I recommend you to start using the Princess as soon as it is available because it's very cheap, one-handed sword, and it does quite a bit of damage. As soon as you get to about level 44, you can get Widowmakers and Double Will Widowmakers. And basically, Ever's Mirage is also very strong as well. If you don't get anything between the Princess and Widowmakers, you can use Ever's Mirage as well. It's a very, very strong one-handed sword. As soon as you get to level 53, you can start using Prismatic Eclipse. It's a Twilight Blade and it does quite a bit of physical damage per red socket. You can reroll it in green sockets, blue sockets, whatever. You can do whatever you want with it. It's very flexible and it's a very, very strong sword up till you get your Skyeva Gladius at level 60. And this is your end game sword. Pretty much you will be using this up till the very, very end game, where you'll be starting earning currency for swords such as this, such as the Accuracy Sword and the Jewel Foils and something like this. For the skills themselves, it's very, very straightforward. This might be the easiest thing ever in the game. You basically start using Frost Blades as soon as they are available, then pair them with the faster attacks, melee fist damage, and Ruthless support. When you get your Ancestral Call support, just start using Ancestral Call support in the 5 link or just drop Ruthless or melee fist damage. As soon as you get Multi-Strike, just drop faster attacks for Multi-Strike, and this is basically it. You're on a 5 link doing tremendous amount of damage. Everything else, it doesn't really matter. Use whatever boots you have, like for example the Leonis Paws or whatever. Rings, absolutely anything. Iron rings with kind of physical damage added. The amulet doesn't really matter, just use any amulet that you want. The helm absolutely doesn't matter, but there are items like for example the Date Bells, which are very, very strong. I will show you guys. The Date Bell is very, very fucking strong because it increases melee damage and it also has pretty nice amount of physical damage added to attack. So basically Abyssus is like an upgraded version of the Date Bell. I used this a lot in the past before I got my Abyssus. Like I said, everything else doesn't really matter. Just start saving for the Bell of the Abyss as soon as possible. Try to get your high PDPS swords, and aside from that, it's just basically an upgrading your swords on and getting Spite Gloves as well, because they are literally one of the best gloves in the game for the physical damage. That's about it. For the end game, these are the skills and items you are mostly likely be looking for, guys. So the 6th link for the Frost Blades should be Frost Blades, elemental damage with attack support, Ruthless support, and Ancestral Call. This is for mapping, Multi-Strike, and melee physical damage. For bossing and for Shaper, I switched Ancestral Call support to the Cold Penetration and slightly recolored my Bell of the Abyss to 1 green socket. But it's very, very easy, don't worry. Another option that you can have for bossing is a MAME support instead of Ancestral Call, but to be honest, this is not really necessary. I'm just killing bosses with Ancestral Call on, and it's not big of a deal. On the gloves, we have our cast damage taken with Immortal Call, a low level 4 and 2. Another thing is Enfeeble and Frost Bomb. Frost Bomb reduces cold resistance of the mobs, lowers their regeneration as well. And Feeble can we switch to Assassin's Mark if necessary, if we don't have this kind of, you know, Shaper amulet with power charges. So just use Assassin's Mark if you don't have it. Enfeeble if you have it, so it doesn't really matter what you have there. For the safety, you can use Enfeeble, no big deal. For the weapons, it's mostly physical damage, attack speed, global crit multiply, and some crit on top. This is the accuracy sword, which is very important so that we have some massive amount chance to hit the enemies. This is not a resolute technique build, guys. And the links here are Hatred, Grace, and I'm specifically using Val Grace here for mapping, as well as increased duration for the Val Grace. It's pretty optional. On the right I have my foil, which is basically just Fizz, attack speed, global crit multiplier, and against Fizz damage. This is it. The links are Cooling Strike support with Arctic Armor and Summon Ice Golem. Summon Ice Golem with Cooling Strike actually very fucking useful to kill Shaper and some nasty bosses that just fucking refuse to die, so this is very good. And Arctic Armor just reduces our physical damage taken when hit. This is mandatory. On the helm we have Abyssus will increase Frostblade damage and try to get this increased physical damage taken as low as possible. So just try, because the amount of physical damage taken with the Abyssus is ridiculous, and some slam like the Minotaur or the Shaper slam can easily kill you. But with this helm we do tremendous amount of melee crit. So this is very important for damage, guys. If you don't have Abyssus with Frostblade, just use something else. It's not big of a deal, but you will be doing much less damage. For the boots we have Combs Roots with the enchant of 16% increased attack and cast speed if you kill recently and as much life as possible. This is basically not mandatory, but it dramatically helps against shit like Temporal Change, which I personally hate. I fucking hate Temporal Change maps, and they do roll like once in a while. That's why I prefer Combs Roots over everything else. The rings are basically just damage, physical damage, elemental damage with attack skills, as well as resistance and as much life as possible. I just have one sick steel ring on me, and the other one was elemental damage with attacks and a lot of resistance and over 100 life on it, so it's pretty damn OP, but anything like this will be good. The amulet is basically the source of crit multiply as well as physical damage to attacks, cold damage to attacks, some resistance, life, and this is the Shaper amulet as well, which has allowed us a chance to gain a power of frenzy and energy charge on kill. This is basically allows us to be kind of a factory for producing charges. If you then don't have this, just use something like this with high physical damage to attacks, crit multiply, life and resist. This is literally the same, except you can also drop Enfeeble for Assassin's Mark to get new power charges. But to be honest, guys, gaining power charges in this build is not really that important. You're just critting left and right. The crit chance is so high, especially with the Diamond Flask, that it's not really big of a deal. So that's about it. The links on the helm is faster attacks, whirling blades, fortify support. This is our fortified and castle protector to boost our damage as well, because this increases our attack speed, and this is very strong for the frost blades. This might damage with the ancestral support, and when I drop this and use maim, my damage is like this. I can get it even higher with this if I get some better amulet like this, for example. Can be pretty much the same shit. So basically it's about the damage that I do with the maim and everything up. For the auras ourselves, we have Hatred and Arctic Armor just for the physical damage reduction. That's about it, guys. The belt is nothing crazy, just maximum life, resist, and also roll increase elemental damage with attacks on this belt as well. I think it's pretty nice. For the flasks, this is the setup that are my personal choices, and this is basically Cirrus Promise, Lion's Roar, Taste of Hate, as well as Diamond Flask for the crit chance, and basically the Life Flask. If you feel like you need more block chance, because the block chance is pretty low on the tree, so you can use Rumi's Convocation to get pretty much ridiculous amount of block chance as well as extra armor. And instead of this crit chance flask, you can also start using the Wise Oak, but I know it's not really that crazy. For the bossing, crit chance is literally more important than the Bismuth Flask, so I haven't really noticed any dramatic difference between the two. So these are my personal choices: Cirrus Promise, Taste of Hate, Lion's Roar, Diamond Flask, and the Life Flask, guys. For the Pantheon powers, I strongly recommend use Soul of Aracali for increased recovery rate of life and energy shield. Even though we use Val Pact, it still helps because it basically increases the leech rate for our life and also increases the recovery rate of our life flask. Along with the Soul of Ruslada, which a life flask gain 3 charges every 3 seconds, it really helps to kind of run around, tank some damage, even when the boss has kind of invulnerability phases when it does some shit on screen and you can't really recover because we are Val Pact. That's why it kind of together helps to survive. Another good choice is the Soul of Solaris, which I personally used before. Solaris gives us 6% additional physical damage reduction while there is one enemy, and this is basically the boss damage. This is where we die most of the time, so this will help. Between the two, I'm currently sitting on Aracali, but Solaris is also good. Of course, another good choice for the minor god is the Soul of Gridcool because it is additional physical damage reduction, but to be honest, I found the Soul of Ruslada like more important for bossing. Now the main question is this build hardcore viable or not, guys? The answer is actually pretty easy. With Abyssus, I don't think it's really hardcore viable because it's just very sketchy. You get so much physical damage reduction, so it can be pretty deadly, especially against the bosses. It's kind of unpredictable, I guess, because you face the boss and I don't really know if you will survive or not, how much damage you can withstand, especially if it hits you really hard with a close range. So it's pretty sketchy with Abyssus. Any build is sketchy with Abyssus unless you are jagging out. So I don't recommend running with Abyssus in hardcore, but without Abyssus, I think the build is actually pretty damn hardcore viable because literally nothing can hit you through this enormous amount of block chance. If you really go and invest in the top, block chance nodes, you can go to the down block chance nodes, you can go well about 50 block chance, and with Runic Convocation you even kind of cap your block chance at around 70, and 100% of that applied to spells. That's why you become like super fucking tanky for hardcore. So I believe the build absolutely stands a chance in hardcore, even though the life pool is pretty hard to pull off because 6,000 plus is what it will get. 7,000, I believe it's really hard without something like insane rolls of HP everywhere, very high level, a lot of investment in the maximum life rolls on the duels, maybe more duels, maybe something like that. So 7,000 is very hard to reach with the Belly of the Beast. I think it's really like literally impossible. But it doesn't really matter. 6,000 is pretty much enough for most hardcore maps. For the end game, for Uber Elder, Uber Atziri, I'm not so sure, but you can always try and let me know how it goes. Now let's talk about the actual effectiveness of the build, guys, and come to the conclusion on how well the build works together. And actually, for the clear speed, I would give it as 4 out of 5. I don't see any problems, dramatic problems, like it's not slow, it's very fast. The clear speed is absolutely amazing with the Ancestral Call support. Without the Ancestral Call support, I would give it maybe 4 or 3 out of 5, between 3 and 4. But with the Ancestral Call support, this is absolutely 4 out of 5. I don't see any problems clearing whatever. For the boss power, I would give it as 3 out of 5. The boss power is just not very strong because it's not Blade Flurry, Molten Strike, like I said. The melee part of the skill is pretty good, but just not as good as the devastating single target skills out there. So 3 out of 5, it's pretty decent. I'll kill Shaper as well. It was not the fastest, easiest skills I had in the game, but it was pretty damn nice. I mean, I haven't been struggling, whatever. I haven't really tried a lot. It was a pretty damn nice, solid, smooth, very relaxed kill. I even have some portal left, so it was not a big deal at all. For the AoE power, it's easily 5 out of 5. The AoE is amazing. Like I said, the Frostblade spits projectiles like crazy, and basically the AoE of projectiles and the way you shatter and the amount of crit you stack on it, all this combined makes the skill very good for the AoE, and it basically chain and kill like 50, 100, 15, 20, 30 mobs at a time. It's not a big deal. The AoE is absolutely amazing. For the toughness, I would give it 3 out of 5 because it's a well-packed 6000 life build with literally just block chance and around 70% physical damage reduction. It's pretty fine, just not crazy because the Leech of Slayer is non-existent in this build, but it's still very, very decent, guys. The only reason why I'm not giving the toughness more, even though there's quite a lot of block chance, is because first of all, I haven't really stacked so much block chance to make it super tough. I didn't use Rumi's Convocation in this build. I am more optimized between the balance of toughness and kind of, you know, the damage as well. So there must be some kind of damage to be endgame viable. You can of course go, you know, shield and stack a 75% block chance, go all these block nodes, but to be honest, you will be dropping your damage so much that it will not be worth in the end game. It will be just entirely the mapping Uberlab build, which I don't personally like. I want the build to be fully viable to the very, very maximum potential. That's why I mean, between 3, 4 and 5, I will give build toughness as 3 out of 5, as this is mostly likely because this is the Abyssus build, guys, and eventually some really strong physical hit can really wreck you because, like I mentioned, we are not jagging out, so you know, shit happens, guys, once in a while. So this is it. The build is very, like I said in the very first part of the video, the build itself is very newbie friendly. It's one of those builds that I can totally recommend to all newbie players out there, guys. When you start playing with Path of Exile, this build is very, very strong and can carry you well into the end game. You can kill Shaper, Guardians and all that shit around. You can clear every map boss in the game, every map. So basically, just one skill carries through the entire game. That's why Frostblades is still a very viable skill, and it's very popular, and I've seen that people still play it and level up well into 95 plus with just this skill alone, without Molten Strike, without Blade Flurries and shit, just Frostblade. This is true skill, and this is very strong. Thank you very much, guys. See you in the next videos. Be sure to subscribe for the new shit coming all the way every day.